Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Estate Strategies podcast by Remax Hallmark. My name is Jessica Ragimov, one of your hosts here, and today I am joined by my very good friend Monique Bryan. She is a powerhouse brand strategist and also an AI consultant who ultimately helps entrepreneurs build their influence, streamline their marketing, and show up online with confidence. And she's actually joining us ahead of her November 25th training to talk about how AI can transform the way realtors build relationships and automate their follow-up. Monique, I am so excited to have you here today. I think it's perfect timing considering you're hosting a training for us next week. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation. You and I have had many conversations about what we're going to talk about today. So let's do it.
So, on that note, I obviously know who you are, but some of our listeners and agents, this may be their first time hearing your name. And I'm curious to know, so for those agents who don't know you yet, how did Monique get into brand strategy and eventually into the AI space?
How much time do we have? No. So I've been running a personal branding consultancy for the last 8 years. And it began many eons ago where I decided I was going to go into the fashion space. So I was in the fashion industry since I could pick up a pencil. So I have a BA in fashion design. I got to study here in Canada. I got to study in London, England, and I got to work for one of our national retailers as head of product development. And during that time, I got to travel the world and work with different factories in China and India. And I really got to learn how the sausage was made, which actually took all the fun out of it for me. And I decided I didn't want to do fashion anymore. And I wanted to start my own thing because we always think we can do it better than our boss. And I went into building a costume jewelry company. And I sold that internationally. I had it for 5 years. I really should have shut it down way before I did, but I was holding on to it for dear life. And that's what we do when we build things. Our identity
It's your
becomes,
babe.
it was my baby. And after I came out of that, I started working for a startup. And when I was in the startup space, that's when you start getting really scrappy. Like that's when you need to figure out how to build this business and who do you need to contact. And while I was doing that, people started asking me, like, how did you figure this out? And how did you figure that out? So that's what led me to coaching and consulting. And because I had this background in fashion and styling, everything that seemed to come out of my mouth was around aesthetics. And someone else came to me and was like, Monique, I really just need you to own the personal branding space because everyone else knows you do that except for you. And I was like, what's a personal brander? So I started researching it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like my DNA. And essentially, like, it went off from there. So it was all about like, how do we manage your reputation out here? Because everyone is judging a book by its cover. It doesn't matter how brilliant the author. I know this coming from a very catty fashion industry, but in business, that's just how it is. Like all people are just judgmental. That's just how we are. And it's fine. When you know how to play the game, that's how you win the game. So that's what brought me to running my own agency, building different branding assets for entrepreneurs. But really, the storytelling aspect is what drew me to it because I had lived many lives, I felt by that time, and I had a really scary time where I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm 8 years in remission now. And when you have something, we've all had something in our lives that was a catalyst to push us towards the next thing. And that was big for me. And it also told me I didn't have all the time in the world. But what it also did was put Instagram at the forefront of my life, which was so interesting because it's when you're going through something, a health scare, it can be really lonely. And even though I have great family and I have great support, I was really looking for a community online and just being able to talk to people in like the dark moments and the fun moments and the, oh my gosh, I have no eyebrows. Oh my gosh, what did this nurse do to me, guys? It became this like back and forth with an audience. And that's when I learned like, wow, I can build an entire community who's never met me, who are now my like ride or dies. So even no matter what business I go on to build, they're coming with me,
There
right?
you go.
So
Yeah, for
that I
sure.
was like, there is power in that. And that is continuously what brings us to where we are today with AI. Because AI came out and I was like, as soon as I knew what it could do, when I saw how fast it made me in my business, I was like, if this can do, it could literally do so much more than my assistant that I was like, why do I have her? First of all, I didn't really like her all that much. But second of all, she wasn't that accurate. Her proofing wasn't accurate. It was taking her a long time to do things I could do in seconds. And I was like, okay, this is going to change the game. Now, how do I look like building a lean team? How do I look like where I actually don't need other team members, where I have to worry about them taking time off and getting sick? And listen, I'm not advocating for taking away team. But this way you can hire high quality team. Like if you're going to pay for team, hire for people who literally do not have skills you could ever acquire, not
Yes.
for mundane, repeatable tasks. And
Yes.
that's what AI made available. So I like went full steam ahead. Everything that I do is AI powered, except for the strategy part, which is my brain. And even that, I'm taking it and putting it into AI.
And teaching it.
100%, because I believe that everybody deserves a chance to make their business a success, to build a legacy for themselves and their families. And because you don't have time, because you don't have team, because you don't have money to invest, that should not be the block. Not today.
I love that you say this. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and the gentleman that was speaking on the podcast was talking about how, there's this common, he says is a misconception that when entrepreneurs try to start a business, that they're taking a risk. But his whole ideology is that there is no risk because there's a lot of strategy behind the decisions you make. And there's a lot of what you're talking about, which is having the right things set and put in place in order to ensure that there won't be a risk. So
But
what I love about you, Monique, is I mean, met last year, and since then there's already been so much evolution in what you're offering to your clients. For example, that the newsletter that we get monthly of like what's happening, here's what you need to know, but also just in the way that you are updating and changing your own business, because it's one thing to teach other people, but then it's another thing to also practice what you preach. So if you're updating and telling your clients, hey guys, here's what you need to be doing, I've seen how you've been able to evolve that into your business as well. So my question to you is, obviously you're working with realtors and you also work with other business owners, which is quite interesting because I'm sure you can draw parallels and also differences in working with these different types of business owners. But what do you think is like the biggest mindset shift that realtors need to make when it comes to marketing themselves today? And you kind of touched on it a little bit as you were explaining this, but I'm curious to know, like, what is it? Like, what is that mindset shift that needs to take place when it comes to marketing? And when I'm talking about marketing, I'm saying like online, in the online space.
I think the biggest one is that you don't need an entire team. You just need a system. That's one. And I think that
Yeah.
people are so wrapped up in like, there's so many tools and something's going to take a job. And like, just shut out all the noise. Remember why you do what you do and how good you are. And remember that the client experience will win the day 10 times out of 10 over any other realtor ever. Like, people are being very discerning on who they work with, who they give their money to. But if you are really focused on a premium client experience with your onboarding, with your follow up, with your communication, that will go rewarded. Period.
By the way, for everyone tuned in, we did not rehearse this, but I'm so happy that you said system, because that word I find is the theme of our brokerage this year. A lot of agents are it's been a tough year, right? It was a tough year last year. And to the agents that have been able to still be successful in a changing market, in a time where the economy is questionable and things happening in other parts of the world that's affecting what's happening to us here, those agents have the proper systems in place. And a lot of them, although they may be a little bit older, they are open to change. So yes, there is something like AI that's been around for the last few years. Okay, well, how can I maybe not learn it in its entirety, but how can I take parts of it to, do the work that maybe either my assistant was doing or that I was doing, even though I don't like doing it. So, essentially replacing and filling the gaps where there are gaps with something like AI in order to have the business running and not just running sporadically, but running consistently and well. So I know you and I had conversations previously about, you and I are actively on socials and stuff, and obviously that helps the business evolve. But you shared a really interesting perspective, which was that email still outperforms social when it comes to nurturing relationships.
100%.
And I'm so curious to know why you say that, because I'm sure you're speaking from experience yourself. Why is that? Like, what's happening over there?
Well, first let's talk about what's happening on social. Social is a friggin' wild, wild west. It is a place where people can find you, so you need to be there. It creates brand awareness, that creates legitimacy. But for email, that's where trust is created. That's where they're seeing the consistency behind what it is that you're saying. Kind of like that practice what you preach piece, right? You're saying you're out here to deliver a certain type of experience or a certain type of result. Great. Then you should be top of mind whenever I'm ready to buy or sell. And the only way to do that is because you're consistently in my face. So you're in my inbox, you're doing things that other realtors aren't doing, right? It's like I think about it like with my insurance agent. He'll be like, this is what's going on. Even if he's telling me my insurance is going to go up, at least he's in communication. I don't just hear from him like when I have a problem. He's actually actively trying to keep me informed of what's going on. And I appreciate that because I don't have it that everyone's going to do that.
Right.
And your email does that.
So I'm thinking of an agent who's like, well, I still would rather be on socials. Like, this is already so much work to like post a video, record a video. But then they'll hear Monique and Jessica being like, but you should really still send emails. So for
Mm-hmm.
someone that's saying like, but I barely send emails, where do I even start? Where should someone start? Like,
This is
should you
where it
go,
kind of comes in.
should you go and like create an account with MailChimp? And then like, I don't know, like where are these
Yes.
people starting?
Well, actually, I'll tell you exactly how I started my email list. When I was back in 2017, I had no list, nothing. I just started my business and I was like, I don't understand how you expect me to get a list. So I'm going to give you advice that I was actually coached on and it worked like gangbusters. And this is exactly what I tell every single one of my clients. I said, okay, you don't have an email list, but you do have people in your phone, you have contacts, you got people maybe in your DMs. What you're going to do is decide if you were to email people and know and be known for something like, okay, I'm going to be known for sending out updates, right? Not to say they couldn't Google it, but we both know they're not going to. So I'm going to send them updates once a month around what's happening and give them my perspective on what's happening in the market. Okay, great. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into your phone, you're going to message your last 20 people minimum that you've already spoken to. I don't care if it's your mom, your friend, your dog walker, because everyone needs to sell or buy a home or someone's living somewhere, right? That's the advantage that realtors have versus what, other people who are really specialized in other things. So you email them, you message them, you say, hey, it may have been a while since we talked, but I just wanted to update you that I'm going to be sending out these email updates that are all around how you can fill in the blank, how you can know what's going on in the market, when's the best time to buy, when's the best time to sell, when the, interest rates are going up, when they're dropping, all of that stuff. If you would love to be a part of that, I'd love to get your email so I can add you to the list. Would that be okay? I have never had anyone say no, ever, because they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. They can always opt out, but now you manually add them to the list. Later, you won't have to do that. You can create all other kinds of systems. But in the beginning, get your first 20 people, get your people on DM. So anyone who messages you, any new client, any new discovery call, it's like, oh, great. I'd also like to keep you really informed on what's going on. Would you be okay if I added you to my list? Now, I don't love to call it a list. I like to brand it, whatever it is. So maybe it's your monthly make that money report, right? Like, just give it a cute name. There's tons of things you could call it, but it just gives it that next level of elevation. Like, oh, it's something special. People love that. They want to be a part of something. So that's exactly how I started my list. And then every new person you meet, you're able to put them on the list. That's how people start, like grassroots.
What kind of platform were you using when you were doing that?
I started on MailChimp. It's still there today.
Yeah.
I'm now on Kajabi because I sell courses, but
Okay.
ConvertKit, which is called the Kit, it would be my number one recommendation. It has
Okay.
a lot of things you could integrate into different platforms and do like opt-in. It has a lot of extra stuff you can do if you want to grow as a business.
You said ConvertKit?
Yeah.
Well, at least they're doing a little branding refresh. Good. That's good. Yeah.
On all the platforms, and people are getting tired. They're getting sick. They're like, I don't want to look at this anymore. I don't know if this is real. I don't know if that's real. I don't know what they're saying. So what's
This is
going to
me all
happen?
the time.
Right. And I'm the same, right? What's going to happen are people are going to actively seek out the people who they like and want to follow. Everything else might just go to the wayside. And if that happens, you're going to get just flooded, like disappear in a sea of noise. So your email is going to be the place where you get to talk to them. That's still a very intimate relationship. Like people's inbox You know, if people drop into your inbox, you're like, if you in my inbox, you better have something good to say. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So people don't take that lightly if they're going to come onto your list. So I think that you really want to think about that as your bread and butter. Like all the socials can change. You're slave to the algorithm, what they want to change today. Every single time I open Instagram, the founder of Instagram has added a new feature and changed this and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what?
So
And
true.
I study Instagram. I'm like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Please stop telling me what new edit, blah, blah, blah is going to happen. I can't handle it. You have no
Yeah.
control. Your email, you have full control over.
Yeah. I love this because emails are such like a staple to our day to day that sometimes we can kind of like look past how valuable and how important it can be. And I mean, you essentially what you're saying is you're bringing it back to the basics. It doesn't matter what platforms you're on or what you know best or where you have 100,000 followers, but bring it all back together to this one place, which is your email. And it's interesting because what I've noticed with like platforms like Instagram and or TikTok, because the conversations kind of flow naturally, like I may not know you, but I'll comment on your story and it's possible that you'll respond to me, right? And so what's happening is we are building some sort of relationship, but we don't think to go and ask for the person's email address. And that's one of the things that I'm happy you mentioned this because I remember when within the brokerage we were hosting some Instagram courses and I was talking about how we aren't leveraging platforms in ways to support us as business owners because first of all there's no written like rules of okay when you talk to someone here's what you should do, right? But when we're thinking about mindset shift, we do need to think as business owners, okay, if I'm talking to this person and I'm enjoying the conversation, great, but what am I really building my social media for? It's to have more clients. So how can I get more clients by having these conversations? And one of those things is asking the right questions, right? And one of those questions may be, I'm creating an email list or whatever you decide to name it. Can I have your contact information? There, right away to me, you have a lead. And you might have just gotten way faster than going to door knock for 3 hours, right?
Yes, 100%. And people, like when you're having a great conversation with someone in the they want to, how do I continue to watch your work? Because it's not going to be through watching you on Instagram because the algorithm decides if they're going to ever see you again.
Yes. Yeah, so then you take control of, okay, well, and knowing that the algorithm decides for you, okay, how can I make sure I still remain in front of these people? And that is when you can focus on something like emails. And emails, you think email is like, oh, that's boring. Emails are boring. But when you mention platforms like the Kit, and if you take some time to study how these platforms work, like I love when you guys send out your monthly emails. Like I love clicking through things. It's very visually appealing for me. Chosen to opt in to receive it. So, I am going to look through it. You did mention how at some point people are just going to get tired of being on platforms because there's going to be so much AI generated content, right?
Mhm.
So I'm curious to know, like, how do you find the sweet spot between AI doing the heavy lifting and also still keeping your authentic voice and center?
It comes down to what are your unique lived experiences that only you can share. That's the only, like, there are things that AI will never be able to do. It can't live your life. It can't live your past. It can't be like, oh, I also had that experience of selling a house and someone pulled out or selling this $1 million home and then the dog ate the couch. I don't know, right? Like only you can tell those stories. The other thing it doesn't have is taste. It doesn't have taste. It doesn't know what looks beautiful, what's amazing. I mean, if you go into chat, it will tell you you are always chef's kiss. That's what it always says to me. You were a genius, Monique. You're just blah, right? It's very dangerous, but it doesn't have taste and it doesn't have judgment. These are all things you uniquely bring to the table. So whenever I'm creating content, it always comes back to how is this unique to me? Because if it's not, it can be copied and it can sound like everybody else.
Mhm.
And I love how you even just like to bring it back to the email when you were talking about it's visually appealing. Like you don't have to make it boring. And any of those platforms have templates you can use. There's all kinds of templates you can buy that look amazing. You can literally buy an entire real estate template already branded for you. You can put it in your own colors on like Creative Market for like $12. Like honestly, like it's so easy to create something that looks visually stunning. and you drop it into your platform, you put in your content and your point of view, and now it's great. I never want people to be held back by the visuals, and that is a big piece. I think that's not just realtors, everybody. They're like, well, it doesn't look good and it doesn't look premium. Great. This is where you go out and seek and find the resources to make that happen. And I don't mean money resources necessarily. I mean, like, with AI, it's like a catch 22. It's great because you can do things fast and it can make, you can free up all this time, but also it makes some things real cheap. So you can go and get visually stunning templates for social. You can get them for your newsletter. You can get it for your branding material. You can print stuff on Vista. Like, so many things can happen now. So visuals should never be the thing. And then there was another thing we were talking about that I will be sharing on the workshop next week, which is around building your own AI avatar.
That's my next question.
We need to talk about it because this is an interesting slash also controversial area for people.
Okay, so my next question was actually about like using AI avatars and, visibility, because I think we're aware, like we sometimes can tell when things are AI generated, right? But some of them serve a purpose. And when you and I were talking about it, I was like, I totally get like the visibility piece of it, right? So, I mean, they kind of sound futuristic, but it's already happening. Like, you've shown it to me. How can agents use these AI avatars, which for those of you that are tuning into the training on Tuesday, Monique will show us what that looks like. So how can they use these AI avatars without it feeling like gimmicky,
ick, inauthentic, like all the names.
Yes,
all the
like
names.
why am I watching this? Like, oh wait, I'm used to seeing like Monique talk, and like I feel like this sounds like her, but like I'm not really sure if it's her.
And
So
it's
like
so
how would
funny.
someone even integrate that into their business, because it is happening and it's here?
Yeah,
How could
it's
we
definitely here.
leverage that?
Well, my philosophy is like it's transparency, right? Like, as long as you're not pretending it's you, then and you're telling people who you are and
Right.
making it fun. That's like a big thing. Like, social's not fun anymore. You know what I mean? Like, think about the things that really grab you. For me, it's like comedy, entertainment, cartoons, talking about my
Animals.
husband, talking about a toddler, and then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, someone's trying to sell me something as well, right? So those things grab people. So when I'm doing my AI avatar, I create a character. She does resemble me quite a bit. However, she is some next level, never needs to have to do her hair or change her outfit because she looks way too fly version of me. And she has her own name, right? So I have a few, but one, for example, is Mo Money. And she always says, hey, I'm Mo Money, Monique's AI avatar. Yeah, I know I'm AI, but here, Monique's got a really important message for you. And then she just talks, and people are just like, what? And people, when they see it, are like, but it looks like her. But I've never, I never claim that I'm trying to duplicate myself so
Right.
it's not me. So there
Right.
are times I show up, so I never have it that it replaces you online. It is like a team member. That's how I treat all my AI.
Gotcha.
It's a
Gotcha.
team member. There's a team member who maybe they show listing. It's a team member that maybe does education. It's a team member that makes sure it calms you down before you buy. Like, there's so many ways you can take it, and you can have it look exactly like you, or you can have it look nothing like you. But the great thing about it is it can show up when you don't feel like it. So there's no excuse around, I don't feel like doing my hair. I don't feel like getting dressed. I don't have the right lighting. I
Oh,
don't
I feel personally attacked.
right? I don't speak perfect English. Like, nobody cares. They just want to be and educated, right? That's it. Like, give me some value, give me a reason to come back. And the funny thing is the more you show up, the more people are you're going to rent space in their mind. And that's really what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's total cringe, that is what's going to live in their mind. Like, oh my God, I can't stop thinking about that person. It's like a song you hear over and over again. Even if you don't
Yeah.
like it, it's like,
You're
well,
singing
yeah.
it and you're like, why am I singing this? Where did this song come from?
That's what I'm trying to do in everybody's mind. It's like, I'm not sure if I need what she's offering, but I like her anyways.
Yeah, no, I do agree. And you mentioned a really good point. Like, a lot of agents, at least in our brokerage, like English is not their first language. So they want to do the videos. Then oftentimes the question that comes up is, should I do it in my mother tongue or should I do it in English? And there's even the thought that, well, if I do it in English, like I don't sound good. And I'm sure like you'll walk us through this, but it would be so interesting to see how you could sound like a recording with your voice and how that could just translate into this AI
Which
avatar.
does.
Exactly. I wouldn't be surprised. And then, you kind of overcome that fear of sounding stupid or speaking too slow or not sounding clear, which is why definitely see the power of AI, how it could support. I mean, with everything, there's, positives and negatives. So I'm super excited to have you walk us through that. Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, if an agent were to only have 1 hour this week to implement AI into their business, what do you think is the highest impact thing that they could do? Because I'm sure you've got a lot of different.
Email.
Her gears are turning. She's like,
It would be
which one?
no, it would be email.
Email.
It would be deciding what it is. You know what? People don't think that way. I would look at, okay, what is some of your favorite clients you've ever worked with? Like, what was the process? What did it look like? What kind of information did you give them? And then sit down and be like, okay, if I was to deliver every month one thing to this client to have them remember me, what would it be? And write about that. Slap some visuals there. Nobody cares. Slap some visuals there. Use Canva, use them off of Google. There's so many free visuals, it's insane. And you can use AI to look for all of these things. So whenever you're wondering how to use AI, or whenever I'm wondering how to use AI, ask AI. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I need to really create this super fast. This is how I like to speak. What do you need from me in order to create this for me? So it's always great to use AI as a thought partner versus just something that does output. So
Yes.
sometimes if you're just saying, okay, I need to write an email, you're going to get some generic piece of crap that you're like, see, it doesn't work. But if you were to say to it, I'm a realtor. This is the type of client I'm trying to reach. This is my goal. I have no email list. I want to start one. If you had to walk me step by step, what questions would you have to ask me to make this happen? And it will ask you, and you'll go back and forth till it's done, and you will have a full plan within the next, like, I don't know, depending how far you go, 10, 15 minutes. Anything I'm building, it goes through an AI filter.
I love that.
And an extra juicy piece, because AI will always tell you everything you come up with is the most amazing thing since sliced bread, is if you have somebody you follow online that's famous and notable that you love, like famous enough that people, if you were to Google it, their name would come up. This is what I do for coaching. I say, whatever coaching or advice you give me, put it through the lens of X coach. What would they say? It's very different response than AI just talking to you. So for me, it's Alex Hormozy. He's like one of the #1 business coaches in the world.
Right.
He has no fluff. He has no bullshit. He's like, goal, money, value. What are we talking about?
Right.
So
Right.
AI is like, well, I would have said this, but Hormozy's coming to snatch you up on that offer. Okay. And it's like, there, I was like, okay. He's like, this is all fluff. Nobody cares about AI, Monique. Talk about the benefit. And he's like, I could feel him like yelling at me through the screen. That's how I love that type of coaching. That's how I like to work out too. I'm like, go. So pick the one that you'll respond to, and you will get a like drastically different response that really feels good to you.
Okay, I really love that. We haven't talked about this, and I'm excited for you to walk us through this during the session. But I'm going to wrap up by saying there is something that I've asked Monique to teach us, which is I know a lot of us agents are still doing Zoom meetings and discovery calls with clients. And, I'm always wondering, and this is just kind of one of my asks, like, how can we take that meeting and deliver something to those clients immediately after without me having to go and sit there and format it on Google Docs and make it look pretty? These are the things that we shouldn't be doing when there is support of AI. And so I'm super excited to have you walk us through that. And on that note, we are wrapping up the episode for today. But for those of you that are tuning into this on Monday, please join us Tuesday, November 25th. Monique's going to be doing an hour-and-a-half session for us, and hopefully you can pick some golden nuggets and implement them into your business. So Monique, thank you. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. I feel like I can talk to you for hours, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Or actually, when this comes out, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to show everybody like what's possible.
Awesome. See you soon.